Depression sucks. Like, just straight up, it sucks. And, this is common knowledge, but I feel like until you actually experience it for yourself, you really just can't understand how bad it is. Like, it's terrible. It takes away from every aspect of your life. It has this way of making you feel isolated in your own mind. And that's a feeling that I've been trying to learn to articulate, and I feel like I've kind of gotten it down. And, I have a spoken word project on the way about that. Now, I've already made quite a few videos, outlining my experiences with depression and just, some of the things that I went through and the way that it changed me. So, I'm not going to get too deep into that in this video, but I just want to give you guys a little bit of background, just like a quick summary of all the other videos. So basically, growing up, I didn't have much confidence in myself, and a lot of that was due to, a lack of purpose in my life. I felt like I was just here and I didn't know why. And, that really started to frustrate me and bother me as I got older, and I saw other people kind of like, falling into their career paths, and meanwhile, I'm just sitting here not knowing what to do with my life, feeling like an outsider. Now, I ended up going to college, and things got even worse. I realized that college was not for me, but I decided to try to stick it out anyways because, that's just what was expected of me. I felt like I needed to conform to a societal standard, especially for someone like me. I had high grades. I felt like it was just expected of me. Like, that's what people expected to see me do. They expected me to go to college, get a good job, and, hopefully get good pay and live like the normal lifestyle. But the thing is that normal lifestyle did not resonate in me at all. And the thought of me doing that for the rest of my life, it didn't sit well with me. It did not sit well with me, and it had a very adverse effect on my mental health. Also, along the way, I had health issues. I had, trouble with girls, things like that. And those really just lowered my confidence even more. So basically, my depression came from a lack of confidence, and a lot of internal thought cycles of self-hate that were going on in the background of my mind, and I was just doing it subconsciously. I didn't realize that I was actually doing it until, I was suicidal. But, I feel like depression is one of those things that kind of sneaks up on you. So, like, you don't really know that you have it until it's kind of almost too late, or at least it feels like it's too late. So, that's why I really want to make this video, is to help you guys kind of identify some of these symptoms within yourselves, and, maybe you can stop it while you're ahead. And of course, I'm going to give you guys context from my life for each symptom, just to kind of give you a point of reference to know what I'm actually talking about. These aren't really in any particular order. These things can happen in a different order for different people, but, I'm just listing out general signs and symptoms that indicate that you are depressed or that you're heading in that direction. Now, the first thing that I would try to take note of is if you feel like you're mentally tired or drained. Now, this is a feeling that I remember trying to explain to my friends, and they didn't really understand what I was talking about. Like, I would tell them, like, man, I feel so tired, like I feel like I'm just real sluggish. But it's not so much like a physical thing. It's not like I didn't get enough sleep or, anything like that. It was more of like just mentally, like I felt like my mind was only 50% awake at any given time. And, this really sucked, especially since I was in college at the time. And so, I'm trying to keep up with the coursework, but I'm just struggling. Like, mentally, I'm struggling. I can't think straight. Like, if you're introverted, then you know what it feels like when you talk to people too much and your social battery gets drained. Imagine that, but like all the time, even when you're alone, the feeling just doesn't go away. And that's like, it's one of those things that you don't really notice at first because it'll just gradually sneak up on you. And, that's a common theme amongst a lot of these symptoms, is that most of the time they kind of sneak up on you. Like, you just don't really realize what's happening to you because it's just slowly but surely building up. So, as the days go on, I just became more and more tired. And it got to the point where I would lay in bed for like hours upon hours. I wasn't trying to do any homework. I wasn't trying to eat. I wasn't trying to go to the gym. I wasn't trying to do anything. I would literally wake up and lay in bed on my phone for basically most of the day because I didn't have the energy to do anything else. Now, because of this, you start to feel kind of disconnected from everything, from reality, from life in general. And it's not so much in like the spiritual sense of like, if you have a spiritual awakening, realizing that you're more than your body. It's more of like a thing where you're going through the motions. If your life is a movie, for example, you would be like a supporting cast member. Like you're no longer like the star of your own movie. Like you feel like you're in the background of your own life. And you literally just go through the motions. Like you're doing these things every day. You wake up and you go to work, whatever you're doing, whatever your life is like. And it starts to feel like nothing that you're doing has purpose or meaning anymore. And as a result, you start to feel like your life doesn't have meaning anymore. And I'll get into that as the list goes on. But that feeling of disconnection, that really makes you feel isolated in your own mind. And it's not a fun place to be. It really, really sucks. It's scary. It's very, very scary. And you feel like nobody can relate to you. Now, me, in my life, as I was going to school, it's like I was doing all this work. Like I would literally stay up all night sometimes to do work. And then other times I just like crash in my bed and be there for hours at a time, like I said. So it really felt like nothing I was doing in my life had any purpose. And like I said, it's scary. When you feel like nothing that you're doing is getting you to where you want to go in life. Or, honestly, for me, I didn't even know where I wanted to be in life. So it's like, I don't know where I'm trying to go. I don't have a destination. But I know that the path that I'm going on is not the right path. Not having that meaning in your life. Now, once you start to feel like your life no longer has meaning, one thing that happens is the things that once brought you joy, the things that were once your hobbies or your passions, they no longer interest you. And I would say, honestly, for me, this is the scariest part about depression. And the reason why is because these things can be like your safe haven, your getaway. It's a way for you to kind of escape from these feelings, this dark cloud in your mind. So for me, it was always playing video games, playing basketball, hanging out with my friends. Doing things like that really brought me joy. That was like the only time that I really felt happy. But once those things were no longer sources of happiness for me, I kind of started to panic. I really started to panic because it's like, man, this is my only source of joy. And now it no longer has meaning. This doesn't bring me joy anymore. Why isn't this bringing me joy? How come video games are not fun like they used to be? How come basketball is not fun like it used to be? When I'm with my friends, it felt like I was kind of alone, even when I was with them. And it's not their fault. It was just like that feeling of disconnect, like I said. So, losing interest in your passions, that's a very scary feeling. And now don't get me wrong, sometimes you outgrow certain activities, but like, if nothing takes the place of those activities anymore and you start kind of living your life on autopilot with no like passion or intention or joy, that's a clear-cut sign that you are depressed. Now, this general theme of like losing meaning and purpose in your life will also make you lose motivation. You start to lose motivation to do the things that you once had the drive to do. Like I said with me, I would stay up all night doing homework sometimes. And it's like, okay, this sucks, but I'm gonna make money at the end of this. Like that was kind of my mindset. At least I'm gonna make money, so I'm not doing this for nothing. But it's like, at a certain point, that motivation that I had, it just disappeared. And like I said, I would be in my bed hours at a time, all day. Like I'm talking like wake up at noon, stay in my bed, maybe like get up to use the bathroom or something like that, and then really stay in bed aside from that until like 9 o'clock. And that was kind of my routine. So, I just lost the motivation to do anything, even like self-sustaining things like eating. I lost my motivation to do that. And I'm going to get into that as the list goes on. The next thing that I noticed was mood swings. I started to have really bad mood swings. Now, generally speaking, I'm a pretty even-tempered person. I have kind of a live and let live approach to things. Like, I try not to let people get under my skin. Obviously, I'm not perfect. I get mad sometimes, regardless of my mental health. This is something that I really noticed my last time being depressed, which was like early 2020, when I was working retail, having girl troubles. My YouTube career kind of felt like it had stagnated a little bit. I wasn't making content that I liked. And, I started to kind of lash out at people. And, this was especially noticeable in my job in retail. I started to kind of like have an attitude with managers, with customers. Like, I just wasn't in the right frame of mind. And, very, very little things. Like, somebody might say the wrong thing to me, and it would set me off. And, I wasn't out here like fighting people or nothing like that, but I was like right there, like I was right there. It didn't take a lot to set me off during this time. It's not just anger either. It can also be sadness. Like, you can just get really sad out of nowhere and you don't know why. Basically, you just become more sensitive to negativity. The next thing that I noticed, appetite. My appetite changed. First, I had like an extreme appetite, and I don't know, like I guess it was just stress eating. But like, I remember there was a point when I was eating, like no exaggeration, no BS, like 6 or 7 meals a day. And I'm talking like stack the plate, full meals, like one right after another. And I remember I gained like 20 pounds in like maybe 2 or 3 months just from eating, just eating. Like, that's all I was doing, eating, doing homework, and laying in bed. But then after a while, I don't really, like, I kind of missed the transition, but it got to a point where I was barely eating at all. And I literally don't know what caused this. Like, just, I went from eating 7 meals a day to eating like a few pieces of bread with peanut butter. Obviously, that's not good for your body, not good for your health, which only perpetuates your depression. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about in this video, and this might be the most important one, I don't think that this is really something that I covered in my last depression video. You start to have suicidal thoughts. Now, this is something that is not as cut and dry as you might think it is from the outside looking in. You probably hear that and you think like, okay, you want to kill yourself like that. But that's not really what it is. It's gradual. There's a buildup to it. It's like, because you lack this motivation and you lack this purpose and you lack meaning, you start to kind of lose value in your life. Like, you feel like life is not important. You don't hold your life in a very high regard. Therefore, you don't really care about losing your life. And I think that this is why a lot of people who are depressed turn to drugs and alcohol as kind of like a quick fix. Being suicidal doesn't necessarily just mean I want to kill myself. Like, that's not necessarily true, especially at first. At first, it'll be so subtle, you might not even notice it. And, depression is so bad that people would rather die than live through it. And like I said, this is something that it doesn't seem rational to somebody who has never experienced it before. But until you actually live it and feel it for yourself, I'll just put it this way. Like, I've been through it, obviously. I've had those thoughts. I've come very close to actually following through on that act. And like I said, you'll hear more about that in my spoken word videos coming up in the near future. But I know what it feels like. Like, I understand why you might feel that way, why you don't value your life. But I think the thing to remember is that you're here for a reason. If you didn't have a purpose, if your life didn't have meaning, you wouldn't be here. Everyone has a purpose. Everyone's life has meaning. You just have to discover your own meaning. But you have to look within to find it. You can't, rely on other people's meanings for you or their purpose for you to actually feel like you're living a purposeful life. It has to come from within. You have to do what you want to do. You have to do what resonates within you, in your heart. If you are feeling depressed, if you feel like a lot of these symptoms kind of match up with the way that you're living right now, the way that you're feeling right now, you're not alone. That's the first thing. I know that depression has a funny way of making you feel alone in your own head, but you're not alone. Trust me, you're not alone. I know exactly how you're feeling, and I know that it sucks, okay? I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. It sucks. But just know that you can get through it. You are understood. And once you actually overcome your depression, you'll be thankful for it. Like me, I'm glad that I went through what I went through because, for one, it made me a lot stronger mentally, spiritually. It helped me develop a very strong connection with myself. And also, if I hadn't been depressed, I wouldn't be able to make videos like this helping you guys out. So, just me having experienced that, it makes me knowledgeable on this topic because I've lived it. I've lived it and I've been at the edge. So, just know, like I said, you're not alone. And in the future, what you're feeling right now will all be worth it.